You're listening to the Wedding Biz Network, the voice of the creative entrepreneur. Hey everybody, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz. And first I want to say Happy New Year. Wow, we made it. You know, and we still have some very rough times ahead of us, but I feel hopeful. So this is a really special episode for me today. And before I tell you about it, let me mention that if you missed last week's episodes, on Monday, the 28th, was Tony Crespo, co-founder of FMI Farms, a national floral wholesaler that really innovatively offers a web-based marketplace for florists and event planners. So that was a very unique episode last Monday. And then on Wednesday, I had a revisit of my interview of renowned gown designer Ines DeSanto, which originally took place a few years ago. Ines and her daughter and managing partner, Veronica, just gave such a sweet interview. It was really, really different. So I wanted to put that out again. So before I announce a guest who's going to help me with today's episode, I want to say that I've had a lot of questions in the past years about my own business, my music business, and just also more about, digging into the podcast and what is this about for me? And, more recently, the pandemic and how am I handling it in terms of my various businesses, both with the music, with Kushner Entertainment, and also with the Wedding Biz. And so I thought that the way I would start out this new year is by getting more personal and telling my own story. But I felt uncomfortable doing it by myself. And so I asked Jennifer Stein, co-founder and editor-in-chief of Destination I Do magazine, to see if she would help me with this. And she's just so wonderful. I mean, those of you who listen regularly have heard her on the show many times. She's not only have I interviewed her herself, but also she's helped me with the next level. And we just have a natural rapport where immediately I feel comfortable. I mean, I really consider Jennifer a good friend now. And so she was very kind and generous to help me with today's episode. And so without further ado, here are my reflections on 2020 with Jennifer Stein. Hey, Jennifer, it is so good to have you on again. I love having you on this show. It's just so comfortable for me.
I know, me too. It's one of my favorite pastimes now. I feel like I've been on enough times that it feels like a pastime, which is cool.
Yeah, we should have our own show or something at this point. My God. So, first of all, how was your holidays? I mean, this is the end of a big year. How was it for you?
This was the first year we did a digital edition towards the end of the year. And usually I am in the middle of the print production, which is like just frenetic. And you pair that with my daughter has a birthday in December, then the holidays, everything else. And this was the first time that I actually put a digital edition, which we've never done before, to bed. And we did that on the 17th or 18th. And then I actually was able to enjoy the holidays with my family. I was like, wow, this is what this is like. I mean, I've had my business for going on 16 years now. And every year I'm like, why didn't we just move the production date? I own the company. I could have done that. So it was kind of a nice experience this year. What about you?
Yeah, well, my girlfriend and I, who we live with, we quarantined, and my daughter, who is living with her boyfriend in New York City, they quarantined. So we were super, super careful, even to the point where I actually drove from Maryland. So it was a 4-hour drive to New York City, picked them up so that they wouldn't be in a bus or anything or a train, turned around and came right back. And but it was so worth it, Jen. It was like the first time. I mean, I remember, bringing girlfriends and my ex-wife to my parents and to my mother's, and to have my daughter coming here for the first time with her boyfriend was so cool. It was really cool. So I'm just still elated. It was a great time.
That's awesome. How old's your daughter?
She's, if I say that, people will guess how. No, she's 20. She's 26. 26. What? Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you must have had her when you were 16?
Exactly. Thank you.
Exactly. Yes.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So it was really good.
Good. So today is actually kind of a role reversal. I get to interview you.
Yeah.
Are you ready for this?
I think so. It's so funny to be like, I've been interviewed several times on other podcasts, but it's always different because I'm in that mode of I'm either being interviewed as the Wedding Biz podcast guy or Kushner Entertainment guy. And it's like the lanes are very clear and it's kind of business and I know how to do it. This is different, because I just want to be myself. And that's one reason I wanted to have you on is because, it feels natural for me with you. And I just want to kind of go with it and we'll see what happens.
Well, I think it's important too for your listeners to really understand who you are. And, you do such a good job of making sure people feel comfortable and really are able to kind of let out their vulnerable side. And I think it's really great when people can connect with you on a deeper level. So this will be fun.
Well, thanks. Yeah.
Let's start with your business, your music business, Kushner Entertainment. So before the pandemic, what was going on in Kushner Entertainment? Were you having a banner year? Were you sucking wind? Walk me through kind of what that was like before the pandemic hit.
Well, here's the interesting thing. I made a very, very big decision. I mean, I've been doing this for decades, a long time. I started my business in the 90s. And so I've been running this by myself forever. And I decided, especially with also having the Wedding Biz, and, we'll probably get into how I'm expanding it in a minute. And so, you know what? To be honest, I want to be really straight here. I was starting to lose energy for my music business after all this time. I was really I wasn't necessarily second guessing myself. It's just the passion wasn't the same. And I was really concerned about that, about what's going on here and where's my passion for this? This is going to affect my success, I'm sure, and I'm not ready to end it. I want to keep it going. So a very long story, really short, is that I ended up partnering with this guy, Robert Sherman, who owns a company called Washington Talent, and we ended up partnering on Kushner Entertainment. He's just a really successful guy, especially on the business side of music and entertainment. And so there, we, in a sense, we almost dated for a good year. I mean, Jen, we got together every week for a year to really get to know each other more and explore this idea of possibly partnering. And to skip to the end of that story, we did end up partnering effective September of last year of 2019. And the news is that it was beyond expectations for both of us.
Wow.
Yeah. So going into 2020, it was just insane the amount of work that was on the books and just how complementary we were for each other. I mean, look, I have business sense, I have creative sense. He's got both also, but he's more business, I'm more creative. And so the combination, it turns out, was explosive. And we would, not only were we cleaning things up, and for me, cutting a whole lot of expenses because I was really overspending. So he helped clean that up for our company now. And then he and I started going to Engage, and we would go to these other appointments around the United States and here locally where I am. And I mean, Jen, we were cleaning up. So the answer to your question is that, first of all, I was really happy. I got the passion back. If anyone listening out there is questioning a partnership, I mean, it's so critical to thoroughly explore and not just look at the numbers, but, do you get along? I mean, it's almost like being married. And, after all of this and after making it happen, it was just over the top successful. So going into 2020 was crazy. I mean, just wonderful for me.
So what was it about your partner that kind of ignited this passion for you? How did he reignite your passion? Or was it just the fact that was there something else that was tied to that? Or was it specifically partnering with him that helped you find that again?
That's a good question. Well, first of all, look, I admit I was not the greatest with finances. I mean, I've made a good amount, in my career. However, I have not held on to as much as I feel I should have looking back. For example, I would produce these band videos that I spent so much money. I know that I spent, let me think, at least at least 5 times what most people in the United States spend on a band video. And I would just go all the way. And it led to some crazy stuff. Like I did huge stuff in Vegas and overseas and, luxury weddings and, eventually working with people like Colin Cowie, stuff like that. And I know the videos helped get there, but I realized after working with my partner that I could have done maybe not the exact same level of a PR package, but definitely effective enough for significantly less money. And that was across the board for me. And so, in terms of how it worked with him and, igniting the passion, first of all, financially, I saw what was coming my way and it was going to really pay off well. I was going to have, if not my best year ever, maybe my second best year in just our first year and a half of partnering together. But as far as the passion, he also loves music and, he's very out there kind of personality. He is also a risk taker to a certain degree. Well, maybe he's a little less of a risk taker than I when it comes to the business aspect, but creatively it's like, Andy, what do you got? Let's talk. What are you thinking about? What do you want to do that you've never been able to do before? Maybe I can help you do it. It was just that every time we would hang, it was like an incredible brainstorming session. So, I hear myself talking to you, Jen, about him, and it was just, it totally reignited the excitement, the passion about why I got into music to begin with. And then frankly, having a partner, it's no longer me. I mean, you've got a partner, your mother. I know you mostly run it, but like I didn't have anybody like that I could really go to. I did, I've had this wonderful consultant, Sean Lowe, for a very long time, who in some sense definitely filled that role for me and has been just a huge part of the success that I've had. He actually helped me negotiate the partnership deal. But still, ultimately, I owned it by myself. Now I share ownership. And so I just feel so relieved. There's just so much off my shoulders.
I think there's so much to be said for sharing the yoke. And not only that, but it's like, I don't know about you, but whenever I go to the gym, if it's me left to my own devices, I'll clock out at 20 minutes. I'll be like, that's enough. I don't need to do any more, do I? But if I have a workout partner,
right,
then it's like you have this accountability. And granted, that's not necessarily passion. But when you have accountability, sometimes it helps elevate your own drive. And so it sounds like this person really brought a lot to the table for you with Kushner Entertainment. Now, my next question is, and I feel like I kind of already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So how did the pandemic then impact your music business? If you went from having one of your best or even second best years of your whole career financially, what happened after the pandemic hit?
Oh, totally. I thank God I can laugh now, but just decimated. I mean, look, by the time we're back, with the vaccine, by the time we all have that, which my understanding is all of us will have it by probably sometime in June, and then it takes a month and you get the second shot. And, I do feel super confident about the fall. I'm not sure about before that. So essentially we're losing almost a year and a half. Well, we're losing like a year and a half. For me, I have had some work along the way, some really cool stuff that paid well. But overall, we've lost like 12 months, at least 12, 13, 14 months of revenue. It's significant. So first of all, financially, it's been such a challenge. It's been a real learning experience when it comes to that. One of the, we had already, because of the partnership arrangement, we had already started to work together to shave expenses and really, kind of bootstrap anyway, which I think is great for any of us, no matter how successful we are, to still, stay lean. I think we all learned that lesson here. But we further cut expenses. And then, frankly, I got help with the PPP program, did some unemployment. So got help from the government in various ways. I had a certain amount of a business loan, which some of it got taken care of through the CARE Act. And so I feel really fortunate that with, federal and county support, I was able to get, some money in, which helped make up some of the difference. But at the same time, it's been really, really tough. I mean, thank God I had enough saved for a certain period of time, but that's really been very hard. It just, crushed the business. Now, on the other hand, I feel real good about when the pandemic's over and looking at the jobs on the books. I mean, a lot of people, all of us have been through this where jobs are postponed and then they got postponed again and they got postponed again. And then some of them were canceled. So, there's a decent amount on the books. And I feel really confident that new bookings are going to come in as soon as people really feel solid about the vaccine. But yeah, it's been, wow, has it been a learning experience?
Oh, yeah. What's been the biggest thing you've learned this year?
I would say, again, with the finances is that, and also I had money from the partnership deal, so I was real fortunate with that. I don't know. I really am not sure how I would have done it if I hadn't had this partnership earlier, someone else to help bear the pain of it and also to help figure out how to get through it financially. I've really learned a lot about how to deal with expenses, and how to cut back. And moving forward, I want to have a different way of holding on to the money that I do earn. I mean, Jen, I was guilty of having super nice cars and going on nice vacations. And I don't necessarily want to stop all that, but I think there's a compromise. I think there's somewhere in between, which is what I'm going to do. And so like I've had some trips. I mean, I've done some, not nearly as much as I normally do, but I've done it in ways that are less expensive. So, I've learned a lot.
Yeah. So now, as far as the Wedding Biz podcast, did the pandemic affect that? And if so, how?
Yeah, actually, it's been in some ways good. I mean, well, first of all, the guests have been incredible, like including yourself. But a lot of the people that I've had on the show have really been vulnerable and they've talked about it. And so in a sense, the Wedding Biz, I think, went to even deeper levels. I mean, over the past, since March, people can hear, who have heard the interviews know that they all talk about how it affected them. And David Stark and Brian Raffanelli and Preston, I mean, everybody has talked a lot about how they had to reset themselves and how they've had to, reinvent themselves. And, some are starting new divisions and new businesses. And so in that sense, I think it helped take it to a deeper level. I mean, I like to go deep anyway in these interviews, but this was, so many of the people surprised me, of the guests, and were really honest about how it's affected them both personally and business-wise. And then also, I started, I mean, this is some people know this already. I expanded, and I don't know if I could have done it as quickly and as effectively if there hadn't been a pandemic. And, because I haven't had as much, I mean, to back up for a moment on the music side, I did use this time to redo a lot of our promotional material, which takes a lot of energy and focus and time. And so I invested a lot of the time I had where I would otherwise be working with clients and working with the bands to clean up and make current our promotional material. But also I was able to launch a network, what I'm calling a podcast network, the Wedding Biz Network. And it started with Sean Lowe, who has The Business of Being Creative, and his episode comes out every Tuesday. And then I don't know if I've officially announced this, but Rachel Berthisel, the Lake Como wedding planner out of Como, Italy, who's really just, in my opinion, one of the biggest voices of Europe and even beyond. She's going to have a show that's going to be launching, I'm guessing, around February. It's coming out pretty soon. We've already been recording shows. Her show is going to be called Destined to Produce. And then Joy Proctor has joined. I'm so excited about Joy. She's a real force in the industry.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that one.
Yeah. And I mean, this is the first time I'm mentioning this on the air. And her show is probably going to launch in the late spring, something like that. And then I've got somebody who I'm actually announcing in 2 days on Wednesday. I mean, Jen, I'm dying. I wish I could right now tell you who it is. It's someone huge, internationally enormous, who's going to be having a show that I'm producing. And it's not just editing. I mean, this is a real creative collaboration, in terms of learning the goals and objectives and the brand message of these different hosts and helping to create a format and And I mean, they're certainly, brilliant and responsible for the content, but it's like a music producer. I'm really helping to shape it and to bring out the best in these people, which is what I'm most excited about. So, to answer your question about how it has affected the podcast, I mean, I'm just like excited beyond belief. And there's several other people I'm talking to also from all over the world about joining this network. And so there's nothing like it. So that's been a source of real energy and excitement for me. Do you wish you could be a fly on the wall listening to music industry pros like Clive Davis, Jerry Moss, and Edwin McCain? Well, check out my other podcast, The Music Makers, where you can hear great stories from some of the biggest music industry professionals around. You can find it on your cell phone's podcast app or at themusicmakers.com. Again, that's The Music Makers.
So it sounds like you've really reinvented kind of the Wedding Biz podcast is kind of where it's been, but it sounds like you've approached your interviews a little differently and then kind of reinvented certain portions of your business. Now, did the pandemic play a role in that, or were these things that were kind of already happening and the pandemic allowed you to really kind of go for the gold?
What you just said is really the case. I mean, I had been just dreaming about having a network and toying with the idea for, maybe 3 years now. And so by having this extra time on my hands and the energy, and again, I mean, it also with the music, I mean, having this new partner has just energized me overall. And so, I was able to kind of take this time and focus. And I'm not one to just totally sit around. Like I definitely like to relax and not work. But I feel the need creatively. Like, I think people can relate to that. I think that's one of the hardest things for all of us is that we're not, those of us dealing with live events, we're not able to do our thing. And I was able to, keep that going, keep that energy going through the network. So it definitely helped. And then there's another show that I launched, which I don't know that I ever would have launched, to answer that part of the question, called The Music Makers. And I launched that one in the spring, like basically right around when the pandemic had hit. I'd already been thinking about it, and I dove into all these interviews. I don't know how I did it, but I got major hitters, like the same level of the Wedding Biz. I mean, I got Clive Davis,
wow.
who's legendary record executive. Yeah. The lighting designer who does every major artist you can think of, plus the Super Bowl halftime shows, the Grammys, the Oscars. I've got hit songwriters, major producers, artists. I'm starting to break into big artists, managers. So I love that, and that's also, helping the music business, and the music business is helping the Music Makers podcast, and it all kind of works together.
It sounds like, just listening to all of this, I can just hear your level of excitement and passion. And it kind of sounds to me, if I could take a step back and from an outside perspective, just look into your overall business, it feels like 2020 has actually been kind of good for you. And I mean, not financially, but in so many other respects, it just sounds like good things really have come out of this for you. Would you say, do you feel that way?
Yeah, but it's part of my philosophy. There's this book that I've mentioned on the show many times. It's by Ryan Holiday. It's called The Obstacle is the Way. I mean, even the title, The Obstacle is the Way. It's like learning to embrace obstacles and understand that it's the obstacles that help us to get to the next level. There's no, like I don't call, people talk about failures. To me, there's never a failure. I mean, it might slow us down, and it might really make us depressed and be very difficult to deal with, some kind of a crisis like that. But I am always looking for, the opportunity to take a really rough experience and turn it into a gift. Like I want to look back. I mean, look, again, I don't wish this pandemic on any of us in the world. I think it's devastating. And I didn't realize that I had so much compassion until this pandemic hit, because I really feel for people and what people are going through. And I feel really fortunate to not be having to struggle to get food and, things like that. I feel, really grateful. But I know that I'm going to look back and again, not wish that it was there, but I am going to look back and say, yeah, because of the pandemic, I was able to learn this and learn that and start this business and start this division and learn this lesson. And, there is good that has come out of it, but it's up to us, right? To make the good.
Exactly. I think it's making us stretch. It's the year of the stretch, man. It's like, stretching our bank accounts. It's stretching our resolve. It's doing a lot of things. And I think it's amazing that instead of just letting this beat you down, you've, worked and spent the time to connect with your listeners, to connect with the people you interview with. It sounds like you kind of even approached your interviews a little differently where, talking to them about what they've learned and even probably that's taught you some things. It's taught me things when I've listened to the interviews. So now let's move on a little bit to your personal life. How, because I know that's like, it's obviously, this is a business podcast, but how has all of this impacted your personal life? It's
amazing. I got to say that. I mean, completely unexpected. If I'm going to be totally straight here, and I made the commitment to do that on this episode. So I am divorced. I got divorced about 8.5 years ago, something like that. I've dated and it got to the point where I was dating someone for about 1.5 years, and we were starting to talk about, maybe living together, because this relationship is like nothing I've ever had. And certainly unexpected. I mean, we're so compatible. I can't even describe it. I'm still amazed every day. And so we were thinking of moving in together, but there's that risk. It would have been a leap of faith for one of us to leave our places completely and go for it. Well, what happened was when the pandemic hit in March, we decided to, when it was quote unquote sheltering in place, we decided that we would shelter in place. And so she's got a cool house in a really cool neighborhood, only like 12 minutes from where I was living. So I came over to her house. And also she has a couple kids, one of which was still a senior in high school. And so, it made sense for me to come to her place. And it went so well that last September, we permanently moved in together.
That's awesome. That's so
6
cool.
months into it. And Jen, if we hadn't had this experience, I mean, who really knows? Maybe it would have taken longer. It still would have happened. I don't know, but it's been incredible. And I've got some very big news. I just got engaged New Year's Eve.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That is amazing. How does it feel?
Incredible. I mean, it feels right, and
Andy, that's
I'm excited.
So great.
Yeah, I didn't know that I would ever do that again. I didn't know if I would get married again. I'm happy.
Well, and to be, so we can talk about the details in another episode, because I'm sure you probably are just, that it's so funny because when someone gets engaged, the questions just start flying. When is it going to be? Where are you going to go?
Listen, it's only been a few days, so I don't know.
So just let me be engaged for 5 minutes, please, and enjoy. Oh, that's so cool. So outside of getting proposing to your beautiful girlfriend, what else has happened in your personal life that you might want to share?
I don't know that there's much else except that, because of, again, having this partner in the music business and not feeling so alone in this devastating, experience that we're all going through, it's helped my personal life in the sense that otherwise, I just can't imagine the level of depression and anxiety. Mm-hmm. I mean, and it's been a roller coaster. There definitely have been moments where I feel really down. There's been moments of anxiety. But for the most part, I feel it's been more smooth for me. And that is a factor of both having this partner in the music business and, feeling like I'm really doing something with the podcast, and also, well, I have to say fiance now, I have to get used to this, being with her and having a partner who is really, we're really partnered together. We're so good for each other. And I guess what I'm talking about is being grounded. I feel way more grounded in a variety of ways,
Good.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you're going to, after all of this, do you feel like it's fundamentally changed your approach to life, both personally and business?
Yeah, that's a good question. I Absolutely. I mean, I feel profoundly changed. I feel like I've, matured finally. Really, I mean, I was kind of all over the place. Life for me has been a bit of a roller coaster, and I'm also partly an adrenaline junkie. I've talked on the show. I love travel, and nature, and putting myself in adventurous situations. I mean, I leap off the cliff and just assume the net will appear. That's how I am. But there's an edge to that kind of a lifestyle, and I'm never going to really lose it. But I definitely, it's smoother for me relative to what my life has been like. This wild adventure. So yeah,
Well, I love your perspective on it. And one thing that you and I have just, off mic, I guess, if you will, talked about a lot this year is the political climate.
Mm-hmm. Do you want
to go there? I mean, I know we only have so much time, but did you want to talk about that?
Well, I'll say this. Well, here's the thing. So Barbara Streisand, I just somehow came upon a quote from her, which I thought summed it up for me about what's going on. She basically said, speaking of a Joe Biden presidency, she said, "I'm exhilarated. He will bring back dignity, honesty, intelligence, and compassion to the Oval Office." Now, look, rather than talk about Trump, I think that this administration that's coming in, from what I can see of who's in the cabinet and, Biden and Harris and all of them, I think it's just for this time in history, for the roller coaster ride that we've all been on and the world is on and is not going to end anytime soon. I don't want to get too political, but I want to say I do feel that we need like a moderate who has enormous experience, who can bring seasoned professionals into this. And let's put it this way, run the country differently. I mean, whether people support Trump or not, it's just been exhausting. I mean, again, whether people like it or not, it has been a roller coaster. It's like every day there's something going on. And I just believe our collective psyche needs stability and as much calmness as possible. I mean, especially with this pandemic. I mean, there's so much work ahead of us. So I'm feeling, what I'm saying, Jen, is I feel, and this is even before the vaccine, knowledge of it, is I feel hopeful. I feel hopeful. There's still a lot of scary stuff. This is not there's a lot of rough stuff we're going to be faced with, I think, for years. But I feel more hopeful. And then having the vaccine on top of that, it's like, yeah, we can kind of see light at the end of the tunnel, at least with the pandemic aspect of the world.
Oh, I could not agree more. And I totally agree with you on Biden being the right person for right now, because if you think about how divisive everything has been over the past 4 years and how much worse it would have gotten if we had someone who, I'm just going to say it. My number one was Mayor Pete. Pete Buttigieg is like my be all end all. That man hung the moon, and I just think I pray someday he's in the Oval Office. But I also think that to have a seasoned professional, I mean, let's think about it. I mean, Biden's been in the White House as the VP for 8 years. Right. He's going to hit the ground running. And we also do need that unity. We need just a minute to just collectively just chill the F out. It just needs to happen. And I think he's the right man for the job. And I think it is going to take some time for everyone to chill the F out. And I think it's not going to be like, January 21st that everyone's like, okay, everything's back to normal. And no. It's going to be, we've got a lot of work to do to kind of rebuild after all of this. We're still in it. And we're going to be for probably the next 6 months, maybe longer, where, we need herd immunity. We need that coupled with the vaccine. There's a lot of things that have to happen. And, there's definitely, we got some work to do. And I think the good news is he's a unifying persona. And that gives me hope, tremendous hope. Well, thank you so much, Andy. This has been fun. I'm not sure if there are did you want to share anything else?
Well, yeah, I want to just, before we end, I want to talk about like what, again, coming back to the hopefulness and what looking forward to. I mean, I just want to say for the event industry, I mean, look, all of us have been on a devastating ride. I mean, it's just been, some people have done okay, either because they really effectively saved, or maybe they pivoted and found some other way. I don't really know anyone that's made anywhere near what they, used to make prior to the pandemic. Though, and look, there's going to be a lot of people in the business that don't make it. I mean, there's going to be, right? There's going to be businesses that go out, and there's going to be people that just aren't able to hang with it and build back up. However, I do believe that for the most part, the industry is going to come back like crazy. I mean, it may take time. See, here, the other thing I want to say too is that, look, it is only early January. And so we still have another 6, 7, 8 months of a really rough time. I mean, so, in no way, shape, or form is this over. Right. But at least we now know, right, that, there is a vaccine. We've heard enough about that and getting to herd immunity and that people are, dying to get back to connecting, us connecting with each other, connecting with clients being able to celebrate joy and love again, whether it's corporate or weddings. I mean, so I'm just so looking forward to doing what I can to help contribute to us all coming back in a positive way, and probably again because of what we've each learned individually and as companies. I believe, how could we not be stronger for this experience? I think it's going to be really interesting to look at this and how I just think it's going to be a stronger industry. We're going to look back and say it made us stronger.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I'm hopeful. And I think you're right with the time frame. And, it's going to be, I think every person has learned something out of this. And, hopefully we'll come back bigger and stronger, but it is going to take some time. And the good news about our industry is we are tenacious.
Yeah.
And we're creators and we're innovators. And that just absolutely plays right into rebuilding and getting back on our feet again. So I'm hopeful about it too.
And Jen, I want to thank you for doing this. I mean, for coming on, you were wonderful. I mean, thank you. You made this really fun and easy and comfortable for me. And
I'm so glad.
Yeah. And I want to tell everybody, check out Jen's website, DestinationIdo.com. Again, DestinationIdo.com. There's a wonderful blog. Jen also has a wonderful podcast, so you can get all of that at her website. And then on social media, on Facebook, it's Destination I Do Mag. And on Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram, it's at Destination I Do. If anyone missed some of this, wants to take it down, it's all in the show notes at theweddingbiz.com. And also, I want to urge everyone to tune in this Wednesday, the 6th, for an entire episode with the person whose new podcast I'm producing and launching on January 14th. But tune in on Wednesday and you'll get to hear this person and all about what their new show is going to be about. It's really exciting. So we'll catch you all next week on The Wedding Biz.